Yo guys, it's Vin, and this is my ultimate AZOTH guide. Now, I know some of you probably cheering in the audience. I mean, this is the character you probably all best know me for. I know a few of you have been asking me to do this for a while, and I was actually going to release a different video today, but I didn't want to keep you guys waiting any longer. Of course, this is my channel icon. This is like my guy, AZOTH. All right, anyway, so let's just get into his stances. In my opinion, there are really only two stances that you should be going for, and one of them is like not even that optimal in my opinion, but we'll get into that. These are all the stances you can go for. Don't go this one, by the way. Alright, so the best stance in my opinion is of course speed. You want at least 5 speed usually, especially on axe and bow, because bow is a weapon super heavy on movement, so you want to be able to keep up with faster weapons like guitars. I mean, although your moves are probably quicker and out prioritize some of Katara's moves, you still want that extra speed just to maneuver around them easier. And of course, axe is a super slow weapon, so movement is critical. You can opt into defense because it takes away dex, and you don't need dex on either of these weapons really. You can take away dex and opt into defense, which gives you some crazy stats. These are 7-4, 7-4. You're an absolute tank, and I actually recommend playing this in 2v2, or at least trying this in 2v2. Not as much 1v1, but yeah, in 2v2, speed doesn't really matter as much, so you can opt into it. Alright guys, now I wanted to talk about AZOTH's bow sigs. In my opinion, his bow sigs are slightly better than his axe sigs, but really not by much. So let's talk about his best one, in my opinion, is bow side sig. I don't really think too many people are going to contest this. AZOTH bow side sig is ridiculous. You see every AZOTH player spamming this, and for good reason. It's a quick 25 damage. You see how I'm doing the sig and it hits him after he spawns in the middle of it? That's because of these insane active frames. These 3 hitboxes that come out of the ground are absolutely insane. They're huge, they last forever. If they're in like a 1 mile radius of this move, they're gonna get hit by it. It catches spot dodges because of the active frames. It's really good GC'd. It can be slide charge. We'll talk about that all in a second, but anyway, let's just talk about the most basic utility for this move, which is reading out of side light. If you do a side light into a side sig, this is basically inescapable if they do any dodge inwards or downwards. If they dodge outwards, they're probably going to be safe for this, but the only way that they're going to punish you is if they dodge upwards. If you miss a side sig and then they try to punish you from above, you can do an Nlight right afterwards. AZOTH doesn't move at all when he does this sig, meaning that it's extremely good for baiting on the edge and edge guarding. If you're on the edge, a very common thing I do is I do side sig, they try to come up, and I do a nair, or I do side sig and then I do a recovery, depending on where they are. I mean, or I guess, again, just an Nlight, but I like nair because it moves me, so just in case I miss the Nlight, they're not going to come up right from here and then try to hit me. Just because of the active frames, they're not going to be able to do anything. If they do try to punish you for doing this move, remember, this will send you in a completely different direction every single time. So like, let's say I do this, it'll send you that way. If I do it here, it'll send them backwards. So if you do the side sig like right at the edge and they get hit like right here, this will literally kill them in yellow. I swear to God, guys. With that being said, this is kind of where you want to be hitting this move. You hit it on the very edge to get that maximum kill power. Although the one direction you can't send them is downwards, which is a little bit unfortunate. It doesn't really matter. Like, for example, if you fully slide charge a side sig and you hit them with the very top hitbox so it sends them directly upwards, it's still gonna kill them. This sig has tremendous force. Like, I don't underestimate this move. Not that I think any of you guys are. GC is extremely effective when you're falling back to stage and you want to catch a landing. Let's say like I'm falling down here, I do a cheeky little GC, catch him like that. Another great way to use this move is GC side sig after recovery to catch fast fall. That is extremely consistent. I go for it almost every match, and you'd be surprised how many people fall for it multiple times in the same match. You'd think they learn, but I guess they don't. You can also do slide charges off platforms. This will cover the entire like half of the map. Because of the way AZOTH's eyes line up with the sig, this actually counts for line of sight. So like, if a Bodvar were to stand right here and I do a sig like this, this will catch them no problem every single time. This sig is perfect though. I think this is one of the best bow sigs in the game just because it covers bow's main weakness of killing. It's so easy to kill with this move. It's so easy to hit. It's so safe. Alright guys, now let's talk about bow Dsig. Bow Dsig is actually insane. If you've been following my channel for like the past few weeks or so, I posted the first episode of my new series Sleeper Sigs talking about Kaya bow Dsig. treat AZOTH bow Dsig like literally the same. This Sig has a lot of active frames just like side Sig and just like Kaya bow Dsig. AZOTH also steps back, and something a lot of people don't know is you can actually steer this move. You can, if I do Dsig and then hold forward, I won't go as far if I hold backwards. This does a quick 22 damage, which isn't really like that amazing, but just think about how safe this move is. If you do a sidelight into Dsig, the only way that they're going to be able to punish it is by dodging upwards and punishing with an aerial as they fall back on top of you. Probably the best way to use this move is just, yeah, out of sidelight, catching in dodges. Because of the active frames, it's a nice mix-up out of side Sig. It's a little bit less reactable. If you dash forward with Dsig, it cancels the backwards momentum, so this is just a great, like, right in front of you move. If side Sig is the equivalent to Nlight, then Dsig is the equivalent to sidelight. It'll hit stacked if it right in front of you. It's really crazy. You can't actually slide charge this, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it's okay because you have side Sig to slide charge it. Dsig is just overall a great get-off-me tool. If your opponent is kind of rushing you down, which is probably the thing that a lot of people want to be doing on bow, because if you give bow space, of course you lose. That's just how the game works, I guess. If they're on you, just do a Dsig. It'll catch stacked. It'll hit them really far away. Alright guys, now let's talk about bow Nsig. Bow Nsig, just like Dsig is buffed up sidelight and side Sig is buffed up Nlight, Nsig is buffed up Nlight. It literally has a second shot in the back, which is, this Sig is so underrated. You can also slide charge this just like side Sig. If you try to catch someone on the edge like that, that is really, really effective. This second shot of Nsig, you probably won't be catching it too often. However, a great use that I found for it, and then as they're falling down, I do a GC Nsig. This is basically the equivalent of doing GC Nlight, except it'll kill earlier. This is unpunishable. They're going to have to run away from it anyway, so if they dodge outwards, then that's probably the only way they're going to be safe. But even then, if they dodge outwards from this, like if they dodge to my right, I can chase them down with a Sair. Or if they dodge inwards, they get hit by the second shot of Nair. And even if the second shot of Nsig, excuse me, even if the second shot of Nsig misses, I do a jump Nair, just like I do side Sig into jump Nair to catch people who are falling on top of me. Nlight into Nsig is a good string. It covers some dodges, although I don't really go for it too often because it's pretty punishable. I would rather go for recovery into GC side Sig. If possible. Nsig is okay out of Nlight. It's jumpable. One more note about bow Nsig is it's actually extremely good GCing as you're returning back to stage. If someone is trying to ground pound you and you do a GC Nsig, this will catch them either as they're coming up to ground pound you, like let's say do dash of ground pound, as they're coming over the edge, this first hitbox will catch them, and if they get past that one, the second hitbox will cover you right above you, and it's really, really good, especially because of line of sight. Like if someone is just standing right here, you can just hit them with a cheeky GC Nsig to wake them up. This catches way more often than it should. Alright guys, now let's talk about his axe Sigs. AZOTH axe Dsig is an abomination. There's no reason this move should be this quick. There's no reason it should be even in the game. If it's just like Yumiko Dsig, the last orb, like the last little hitbox, this third one that comes out here does the most damage. Another thing that's also really good in 2v2 is this huge hitbox. If you hit somebody with a Dsig and this huge hitbox comes out, you can actually like team combo with this. This will like accidentally hit your the other teammate, which is pretty interesting. Just like bow side Sig, this is so safe. AZOTH doesn't move with it. If you do like this, that will catch really easily. GC Dsig, just like GC side Sig, is extremely good. It flows so well into the kit. If you do a sidelight Nair into GC Dsig, that will cover quite a few dodges. However, there is, in my opinion, a better option for that. If you do something like a Dare into a Dsig, that will cover down dodges. However, again, there is a better option than that, in my opinion. Yeah, going for these like dash cancels into reverse slide charge Dsig are extremely good. Although I'm terrible at this game, I can't, oh my god. Alright, now let's talk about axe Nsig. This, just like bow Nsig, is actually super slept on. This is quite literally Bryn axe Nsig, just a little bit chunkier feeling. If you do an Nsig, you're probably not going to be able to wake up after it, so you gotta make sure that this is gonna hit. But let's just look at this hitbox really quick. Just like the hitbox of Dsig, this secondary hitbox right here, it's literally the exact same thing. There's no reason all of that should exist. Unlike Bryn Axe Nsig, this will actually cover like slightly behind you, which is actually insane. And by the way, guys, just like side Sig, you can actually hit this and kill earlier, depending on the angle you hit the Sig at. If you hit it at the very back, this actually has more force than on the front of the Sig, which is actually insane. You can do Sidelight Nsig. It's jumpable though, so I wouldn't really recommend going for it all the time. But let's say you're on like red or something and you know your opponent, oh my god, not that. If your opponent is going to dodge down, or if you've been doing like Sidelight Nair the whole match and you just suddenly do a Sidelight into nothing, your opponent will probably panic dodge, and if that'll catch the spot dodge because of the startup frame. So just doing Sidelight into Nsig is really good. Just like Axe Dsig, how I said that huge meaty hitbox is pretty good in 2v2, Axe Nsig is better in 2v2. I mean, this is a lot more controllable. You don't need to hit the first part of Dsig to get that secondary hitbox out. So if your teammate has like any type of Nlight, like Axe Nlight, Gauntlet Nlight, Hammer Nlight, that'll send the opponent slightly upwards, like at a slightly upward angle, you just simply Nsig. It's really free. If you're not that good at team comboing, it's super easy. And before I said that you can do Sidelight Nair into GC Dsig, however, in my opinion, there's a better option. Well, that better option is actually Nsig. If you do a Sidelight Nair into Nsig, oh, I actually already have them set it up, nice. If you do a Sidelight Nair into GC Nsig, that will actually, it's easier to hit because of this, again, this huge meaty hitbox. It may not kill earlier, but it covers more dodges. GC Dsig only covers down dodge and maybe down out dodge, depending on how you drift it. But this will cover every down dodge, in dodge, depending on the health. If they're too high health, at the high damage, they won't get caught by an in dodge. If they do a down in dodge, of course, that'll catch. It's really versatile, and I highly recommend going for this a lot. You can also do Dare into Nsig if you know they're going to dodge down. Oh my god, that killed him, Jesus. Alright guys, one more thing about Axe Nsig is it's extremely good for reading out of Nlight. If you know your opponent is going to do like a dodge up or something, like jump, yeah, let's just say he's dodges up or does a jump, and you, oops, I didn't realize what health. Oh my god, that, see, if you saw right there, that actually caught him. That's an example of the top hitbox coming into play. Yeah, if he was on red, this would kill him much earlier than normal. If you just do an Nlight into a dash or chase dodge Nsig, that will catch quite a lot of options, just like Dlight, except this time Nsig will actually cover like spot dodges and in dodges and stuff like that because it hits in front of you. Alright guys, one more Sig to go, and that is Axe Side Sig. In my opinion, I don't really think this is that good of a Sig. Okay, it's really good, but it's kind of wonky to hit. Even in my 45 levels of AZOTH, I don't really hit this too often. In my opinion, the best use for this move is through a GC. Because of how fast this move is and how low the hitbox can be, yeah, you can just clip the top of people's heads. And like if somebody has something like a bow and they have, or like hammer, and they have like combo stars that are really low to the ground, you do a GC side Zig, clip the top of their head, and just like bow side Zig and Axe Nsig, depending on where you hit this move, it will kill earlier. Let's say I hit this move at the very edge, that will kill earlier than if I hit it like that, because if you see, the angle is much more forward than if I hit it like that. If your opponent is edge guarding you and you're just kind of floating here, you can just do a quick wake up GC side Zig to catch them, completely reverse the edge guard depending on what health they're at. If somebody is coming back to stage, you can also do a side Zig, and it's really quick. Just be careful, if they touch the wall, then you're pretty punishable because you're just like here, and you have quite a few recovery frames. I mean, you can do an Nlight right afterwards, but you're probably going to get beat out if your opponent touches the wall quick enough. Side Zig can also be used for reading out of Nlight. Like, let's say you know the person is going to do like an auto in dodge. I have not tested this before in training, but I know people go for this. Oops, I meant to do a dash. Like that. If you know they're going to do an in dodge, that straight killed him at 90 damage, by the way. This Sig is really not too good at chasing out, doing out dodges. Like, see, they're literally only at 20 and they're dodging out. I'm not going to be able to catch them with that, so I wouldn't really recommend that. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. Sorry if this guide was a little bit more cluttered than usual. I mean, I didn't have a script. I didn't want to write a script, mainly just because of the fact that, you know, this is AZOTH, this is my guy. I mean, I feel like it would take me forever, and because of like how perfectionistic I am, especially with writing scripts, it would just take me an unnecessary amount of time to write a script for AZOTH. I feel like it's a little bit more efficient if I just start talking about them, and as I start talking, I remember things that I like to do in my gameplay, and I feel like it's just a little bit more natural. All right. Anyway, I'm a little bit rambly right now. I think I'm just gonna sign off. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.